Welcome back to Listen to Leo. In today's video, I wanted to share my approach to solve a problem that I've been working on as part of building out Talk Me, which is a chatbot for realtors. So here's something that I realized as I'm going through, I'm scanning their websites, right? I'm scraping this information, but there's really two types of pages that I care about. There are property listings, which are going to have very specific information about properties that are for sale. But then there's also kind of informational pages, right? I mean, on one hand, I could just kind of scrape them all, throw these all into a vector database, and try to answer questions from them. But if you watch some of the other videos that I've done, one of the things that I really want to do is figure out where I look for different information. I'm trying to determine the intent of the chatbot's user. And so, as part of that, if I know that I'm trying to get information about a property or I'm looking for properties that match a specific criteria, at that point, it becomes very, very helpful to pull that information out separately and answer that from a vector database that is specifically designed to contain that information, right? So here's what I've been trying to do. Basically, as I scrape a web page, I want to figure out, is this a single property listing or not? That seems fairly straightforward, doesn't it? Turns out, wasn't quite as easy as I had hoped. Now, I was able to scrape a page that was definitely a property listing and extract that property information without any issues. And in fact, I could even scrape it and return it in JSON format so that I'll be able to actually ingest that into, a searchable database very easily. And so that part, pretty cool. Excited by that. That went smoothly. But the classification problem was different. So, first of all, what I tried to do is throw all of the context of the page into a vector database and just ask the question, is this a property listing? Turns out that didn't work so well. And the reason for this, I think, makes sense. It chunks up the page into little bits of content and then tries to match the chunks closest to that query, pulls it out, and then only adds that to the context that you sent to the LLM. So it's not getting enough information from the web page to really make that determination. Cool. So the other option then is to send all of the page information to GPT and see what happens. This part was a little surprising. I figured if I had all of the information of the web page and sent that into GPT 3.5, I'd be fine. It should be able to identify it. Turns out, no, couldn't. What if I send all of this information to GPT-4 should be able to figure it out, right? Still no. Huh. At this point, I was a little perplexed, trying to figure out how to get this problem solved. Then I added in the URL just above the page context. And at that point, GPT-4 goes, oh yeah, that's a single property listing. Huh. How about that? What about 3.5? Still no. 3.5 just not very good at this task. Now, here's the issue. That's a lot of information to send to GPT-4. GPT-4 is more expensive. Do I really want to send all of that? But then I was like, all I sent was the URL to add to the page context, and that was enough. What if I only sent the URL? Turns out, looks like that is sufficient for GPT-4 to figure out whether or not it's a single property listing. And I think the biggest reason for this is that realtor pages are pretty extremely optimized for search engines, which means that their URLs are lengthy, descriptive, and numerous. And so it's pretty easy to tell which one is for a specific property versus which one is for a category or an informational collection, anything like that. So the URL in this case is actually enough. So yes, I'm sending it to GPT-4, which is more expensive, but I don't need to send nearly the amount of tokens that I thought I was going to have to initially. So I've still got to figure out how this plays out in terms of cost, trying to figure that part out. But as it turns out, just sending the URL, at least in the handful of examples that I threw at it, is enough for GPT-4 to make that determination. This is not what I expected when I started this process, but here we are. So now I've got it implemented in the actual code base for the app. I ended up doing it kind of coded specifically for this use case, although I have an idea to make it more robust and customizable down the road. Because again, this is kind of the open source package I'm building out. But right now it's geared very specifically toward Talkholme, since Talkholme is the only application being built on it right now. So yeah, working to ship fast and make sure that it's worth pursuing. So a bunch of further testing coming. Got to make sure that this works for all sorts of different use cases. But yeah, thought that was pretty funny. Don't actually need all the page, just need the URL. That's good enough. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.